Hello, hi, and welcome again to the Terminal Podcast, where in the end, it's all about the numbers. The number six is not as spectacular as five when it comes to looking back, but that's what we'll be doing in this series for 321, looking back to 2018 and the original publication of their rap debut album Tournament, or the RDAT. My guests tonight have reviewed some parts of the articles posted on martinkester.com and dropped into the terminal to continue this ever-evolving conversation like civilized citizens. This latest episode was sparked after Mike Tyson's loss to YouTube influencer Jake Paul, officially ending the 20th century. So let's start with where you're calling from and how you will remember Iron Mike Tyson. Will work from my left. So Kenny.
Hey, this is Kenny calling in from McDonough. And regardless of what happened with Jake Paul, I will always remember him as a monster. I still remember, the Saturday nights on HBO, the pay-per-view events, and everybody getting together. They watch the fight. So I'm always going to remember him as a monster and an icon.
All right. Josh.
Hey man, I'm calling in from Jersey. Mike Tyson was just a force, man. If you don't remember Mike Tyson in the '80s, he was the baddest man in the world, and that's always how I remember him. That and the In Living Color spoofs that they did of him will live forever.
Forgot about those. Rashawn.
Calling in from College Park. And the words bad intentions. That's how I think about Mike and how I remember Mike, sorry, and him throwing punches with bad intentions. Like that was the first time I heard those two things put together. And yeah, he was a force of nature.
In
Marty, you still got the best quote of all time. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face,
yeah.
and it's completely true and can be used in just about everywhere.
It's 100%. Back in 1985, Tyson started on the path to becoming the baddest man on the planet. That was also when an opening act for Madonna's Virgin tour would eventually join the Raising Hells tour with Houdini, LL Cool J, and their opposition in this RDAT group's play-in match in Run DMC. Uh, Beastie Boys, Run DMC. Do we want to have the Rick Rubin conversation now or after we discuss the two albums that he co-produced? And because he's the connecting link between these two things. Just I don't even know what to say. Anyone want to start on Rick Rubin? Josh, what are your thoughts about Rick Rubin?
I mean, the legacy of Def Jam is so. Yeah, I mean, it still has legs today, 40 years later. I mean, the ability of Rick Rubin to find talent and get the most out of talent is probably unmatched in the music industry through across just about every genre.
Sean, any thoughts on Def Jam as a label that was started in Rick Rubin's university, New York University dorm room, and eventually
Yeah,
financed by Russell Simmons, drug
right.
dealer Russell Simmons?
Yeah, well, you got to get the money from somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think that whole Rick Rubin, the early Def Jam years, I kept coming back to the word lean. Like there was no fat. Like it was just here's some we're gonna spit some lyrics and you got drum beat and a little bit of something underneath that, but that's it. Come on, let's go. And four
Basically.
minutes of this per song, let's just rock. So that was kind of what I came up with. But yeah, he did his thing. He was good at it, but he like elevated really simple things, but made it very intricate and very very good. So
Yeah. Sorry, you're setting up towards the end, but you can hold on to that seed. The entire tournament seedings and brackets for the RDAT can be found at martintester.com. Tonight's group's bracket is fictionally sponsored by MTV, Viacom, and AOL. And this matchup in NCAA basketball tournament talk, it's two established powers. It's like these are two albums, they're almost forgotten. Just as no doubters in this kind of thing, even though I don't think either will make the final four, but it's kind of like they're in, right? I mean, the sound, you're kind of saying the sound style, it's too slow and old for modern ears. I mean, it's almost like it's hesitant, right? It's like, am I saying this? It's the lyrics are too simple, or they're even, what I mean? But these are lyrics that have stood around and been around. And I'll quote this because I get to quote this. Who hasn't paraphrased or used this at some point? I'm waiting for the backbeat, but 2 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to say some MC rhymes. So I said this rhyme I'm about to say. The rhyme was deaf, and it went this way. It and that it's just, Kenny, your first thoughts on Run DMC and their self-titled eponymous debut album, Run DMC.
Wow. I still remember the very first time as a kid when I heard It's Like That. Heard on 98.7 Kiss FM as a kid growing up. And I remember my older brothers playing it throughout the house all day. And it just caught my attention, stopped me dead in my tracks. So I was like, what is this? I need to hear more of it. And it's funny looking at it from the NCAA tourney standpoint. It's almost like we have to consider this album like one of the blue bloods of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Will they necessarily get far in the tournament? No, but we're not having this conversation without this album. So that's how I look at it. It's a legendary album that deserves to always be in the conversation.
Any other thoughts, Rashawn? Just on, in general, when someone says Run DMC, what is this? Do you think of this album? I mean, what do you think of when you hear that name? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And just keeping with the NCAA thing, would this be like an eight
Mhm.
nine matchup or
It's a four. It's a 4-5. It's a four
Well,
five. So
okay,
essentially,
okay.
it is like that. It's like an 8-9, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. My my biggest memory is Rock Box because they played the video like all the time, and I was like, this is like nothing we'd ever heard before. Before it was all, hip hop, hip, that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, and a lot of hoods and stuff like that. So, they were these kids, were kids at the time for them.
They
Uh,
were.
yeah, dressed in all black, and they had the leather from head to toe. I was like, man, this is wow. This is crazy. This is the future, you know.
And it's funny because we're saying that was the future, and that was 85.
Yeah.
Josh, there are only 9 tracks on this album. Do you think that's one of the strengths of it? The fact that it's like you were saying, it like Rashawn was saying, it's so trim, it's slim, it's cut, or if not, then why do you think this album's in the tournament period? Why is this is the 4 seed? They're in, but
I think it's like, I think it's a lot of reputation, right? I mean, I think because of how well and how iconic and how foundational Run DMC was, you look at their first album and say it's got to be here. I don't know that this is their best album. I think when you go to the Beastie Boys, you can
no,
make the argument like that License to Ill was their best,
mm,
but
no, it's not
for
their
Run
best.
DMC,
Yeah, no, it's not
right?
their best at
So
all.
right,
But
but
it's their
so
debut album. Yeah.
it is, and I think Lean is good because it lets you focus on, um, on what's important to them, and it's really, quality over quantity. The big issue to me is the thing that I noticed going back and listening was how much of a rock influence there was on these albums
Hmm.
with Rick Rubin versus like someone was saying about the original hip hop stuff wasn't very rock influenced. And I think this enters a phase where you go through, these guys in LL and all the Def Jam guys are very much rock influence. I think
Yeah,
it's an interesting kind of way to look at it through that prism.
that's called the Rick Rubin influence. I'm gonna cite in a little bit, but so I've said there's only 9 tracks on. If you've named 2 already, you know, if you Kenny, if you were, how many do you skip? If you've listened to this album, it's gonna say, or if you were suggesting to someone else, be like, you don't need to listen to this one. You know what I mean? You could of the 9, you could probably you don't have to hear what.
You can really kind of stop after it's like that because the last 3 joints, and I actually went back and re-listened to the album early this week, is
Mm.
you got Wake Up, 30 Days, and Jay's Game. And I listened to those last 3 tracks, and Wake Up in 30 Days, you can really you can skip them because you can almost feel like in the studio where they were like, okay, we got to finish this album. Just throw anything on there at this point. So, so really, once you get past it's like that, you can pretty much wrap it up.
Rashawn, agree?
I agree. The one track that I really, really would tell people to skip is Jay's Game. Um,
Mm, yeah.
because I think Jam Master Jay did a little bit of showing his skills. And then Jay's Game is just basically him just going crazy for however long, 4 minutes or so. And it's just like, oh, this is good. Like this would be cool, like if it was live and then at a party.
Mm-hmm.
But just
Mm-hmm.
on the album, yeah, no, you definitely
Yeah.
you can miss me with that one.
All right. There's a little way to transition, but from laughter to did you know? That's how you can cut laughter out. Uh, that Beastie is an acronym that it means boys entering anarchic, and I'm messing up the word. Anarchic, anarchic, anarchy, but it's anarchic states towards eternal excellence. Look, it's 3 Jewish boys from various parts of New York City. They were going to come up with something. That's what they did. It starts as a hardcore punk group, but they changed with the times, just like they changed their lead producer, Rick Rubin. Here's a quote from rapper WC, which you have to be from the 20th century to even click immediately to know he's from West Side Connection. This is from over a quarter century ago. They're legends in the rap community. I always listened to the Beastie Boys coming up. They were one of the heavy hitter. Oh, they were on one of the heavy hitter labels, Def Jam at the time. Uh, Kenny, your first thoughts about License to Ill? I've already
Wow.
heard Josh say it's considered one of their best, and that's a whole separate conversation about the Beasties. But go ahead, Kenny. Your thoughts on License to Ill?
Same thing as just seeing their the Fight for Your Right video on MTV nonstop and go running out and buying the cassette and realizing that the album had even greater tracks than what they were playing on MTV
Mm-hmm.
and just playing it nonstop. And that the album has really aged well. I also went and re-listened to that one this week. The album has aged well.
Josh,
Yes, sir. I remember
your
having this cassette. I mean, to me, like the thing about this is they never really come back to this. Like it's really a frozen moment in time with their
mhm.
discography. You know, they become something very different and are known for something very different as time goes on. But this, I mean, this album really captures like for me the mid to late 80s, you know, like 86 through 88, like that era. You know, this album is firmly a piece of that. And um it's just iconic. And I think you can you know, when you talk about skipping tracks or things like this album you can almost go through, you know, front to back without skipping.
I will repeat from my initial article, and while it might ruffle feathers, the easiest comparison is to Elvis Presley in the 1950s, taking something done primarily by Black people and admired from afar and bringing it to the mainstream, aka the white suburbs. The sound that Rick Rubin created for the Beasties was perfection. The album's first track, Rhymin' and Stealin', begins with a loop from Led Zeppelin's Where the Levee Breaks, and the whole album sounds like a rock record with samples from The Clash, War, Steve Miller Band, AC/DC, and a guitar solo by Slayer's Kerry King on No Sleep Till Brooklyn. However, it's clearly a rap album. So, Rashawn, why is that why this becomes the first rap LP on the Billboard Top 200 chart, or is there another reason why it's the second rap album to ever be certified platinum?
Oh, I think the whole Eminem, let's take black music and do it thing. The Elvis Presley tie-in definitely has something to do with it. I think that we talk about representation today. This is representation for a whole swath of America in rap, and I do think that the use of all the rock stuff was intentional and helped with marketability, because you do have those fans of the rock bands that go, "Hey, wait a minute, I know that song," and so you bring them in that way too. And then a lot of this album was playful, and the guys, the group really like did the whole Run DMC thing where they were finishing each other's lines or intercutting each other's lines. So it gave all three of them a chance to let their personality show. But I definitely think that Middle America got this album and was like, yeah, this is my group.
Kenny, there's 7 singles that were released off of this album. The album drops November 15th, 1986. When do you think No Sleep Till Brooklyn got its cassette single treatment?
Wow. Feels like it was
it wasn't the lead single from this album. It's not the lead single from this album. And I say No Sleep Till Brooklyn because that's one of the more famous tracks from this album. It doesn't get released until, let's take a guess.
Wow.
And
I think this might have been maybe the 4th single that was released, because I remember seeing this video as well in your MTV Raps, but it feels like this might have been like the 4th single.
This was about the 5th or 6th single. It's released like April of the following year is when it's released. It's in the 87, but 20 tracks. Josh has already said you're not skipping past. He's not skipping past any. Are you skipping past any? Or a better question is, which tracks are you?
Girls, absolutely. As a kid, it was a fun song to sing along with and laugh at. But then after a while, it was just a simple song, and it didn't really match everything else that was on the album. So I would say, yeah, listen to it once, but you can really skip it.
Sean, anything?
Posse in Effect was a song that I was like, yeah, I'm good on that too.
Josh, any thoughts after 20 tracks? You're still going straight through, start to finish?
No, look, I mean, they're not wrong. I mean, there's clearly tracks you could skip, but there's so many throughout that, like you said, I mean, just the 7 singles, like you could throw one on right now. You could throw on the 7th single, and all 4 of us would know would know it instantly. And it's 40 years old. I just wanted to go back to the Elvis thing. I think what makes them a little different than Elvis is they didn't try to usurp the entire genre. They really wanted to be a part of the genre, and I think because they got buy-in from the black artists, and because they were attached to Run DMC so early, I think it's a little bit different. And they didn't steal other songs. Yeah, it's not
different. It's more of a simple. It's a simple way to tell it without trying to go throughout the whole history part of it. But yeah, it's the easiest way to see it. But yeah, no, without question, they're on the same label with them, and they go on tour with them.
Right.
They're part they're it's I say it's I call it founders versus finance, and I could be talking about either group for as being the founders of the finance, and the other one being the other side, because we're talking about the top tracks for this album for License to Ill, and there's a bunch. As far as I'm concerned, there's only one correct answer for the top track for Run DMC. Run DMC. It's Walk This Way. It's the cover of a song from a 1977 resurrected Aerosmith, and it made it acceptable for Adidas to sign 3 kids from Queens to $1 million endorsement deal.
Yep.
That has to be the only song. So what is your most memorable song from License to Ill? There's a ton of options, but there's only one option for Run DMC. Your most memorable track. Kenny, I'll start with you.
Well, I'm going to go with the track that taught me that you can have a good time by mixing Old English 800 and Sunny Delight.
The Funky
Brass Monkey.
It's Lucky Monkey. Okay. Josh, what's your most memorable track?
For me, it's Paul Revere. It's hard. It's hard to not love Paul Revere. And the funny thing is, looking back through like the album credits, Run DMC has writing credits on a bunch of these songs. But for me, man, you get that unique beat for Paul Revere, and you can go the whole time. And it's to me, it's the most memorable song. I don't know if it's the most iconic. I mean,
no, it doesn't have to be the most iconic. It's what's your most memorable song from it?
Yeah, for me, it's Paul Revere.
Rashawn, what's your most memorable song?
Yeah, it's Paul
number
Revere.
one.
Paul Revere, and it's mostly because of just having that in the car and trying to blow out my speakers with the backward beat on it.
Well, that's Rick Rubin, because he's gonna put that bass behind it and everything, and especially back in the 80s when that wasn't. So this is all to come to a consensus, and it's not an easy 4-5, but tons of factors. Which album moves on? And I'll open this to the floor because it's not easy, but someone's got to win this game. There's 2 teams. Someone's got to win this game and end this mother. So, Kenny, you got any ideas?
This is a tough one. I think it's License to Ill at the buzzer.
All right. I mean, because you can't. I guess to play around and play the devil's advocate, which is but Run DMC kind of, yes, the Beasties are around, but once again, I've already mentioned Walk This Way because it's the iconic. It brings everybody along for the ride. All of rap is now okay because of that one song. The Beasties are going to be fine, and as Josh said, the Beasties then become something else because, they're not. They're the Beasties. They become. I'm trying to think of the album where they're intergalactic, planetary. Like they go elsewhere.
Paul's Boutique.
Yeah,
that's another one.
Yeah, Paul's Boutique.
But we're talking about License to Ill. Rashawn, you got License to Ill over?
Yes. And only because Run DMC only really gave us 8 tracks on the 9-track album.
But there's a couple other ones. You said rock
rock pops and stuff, But I mean, it's just I think you go with License to Ill. Just again, just these 2 albums, not the whole.
Oh no, it is this album versus that album. It's not. So the influence of it, the absolute the fact that you just mentioned that people on Run DMC have album credits on License to Ill. Does that not does, does that
Well, the
not
thing we
give
got to
them
take into
something to warrant
consideration
it?
is the fact that there were 7 singles that were released from the License to Ill album. Run
Yeah,
DMC's first album had what, 6 singles? What, 9 singles? So
nine
there were
tracks.
seven.
Period.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
License to Ill released almost as many songs that were on Run DMC's debut album. So now you
Yeah.
also got to take that into consideration.
Uh, Josh, I'm not taking your silence as a vote in the affirmative, but
No, I
I
agree.
believe
I agree. I look. I think if you, I don't know what your criteria is, but I think
you
if you handed me two CDs or whatever people listen to music on today, if there's actually
that's all
anything
right. Date
tangible,
yourself. It's okay to date yourself. It's all
And going
right.
back to
we are
vinyl,
talking.
going
We are
back to
talking
vinyl.
about. I mean, we're talking about two albums that are. I mean, both came out. I think. I mean, have the Mets won a World Series since either one of these came out, Marty?
I
But
want to say they right around. I want to say they both are out right before, but yeah, no, no,
no,
no.
but I think if you handed me both albums and said which one are you putting in the boombox first, I think you're putting License to Ill in first, and to me that's the deciding factor.
Hmm. Well, I'll take the dirt being thrown on my favorite franchise and move along. And yeah, so yeah, it's License Ill, and that's a 3-0 consensus, and we'll move on to the trivia question. And I've talked a ton about Rick Rubin because I just feel like his importance in the creation of this genre we call rap will be easily forgotten unless old people like myself remind people in the 20th first century what he did. The Aerosmith cover and the three white boys rapping in the midst of a crazy party scene full of scantily clad women. Those are fundamental reasons their videos were played on MTV, which in turn skyrocketed everyone. Snoop comes a little bit later, and yeah, all the things that happen start with Rick Rubin. It's the foundation. Unfortunately for Rubin, he didn't gain any critical success as a producer until the Grammys awarded him as a producer for Best Country Album in 1997 for Johnny Cash's Unchained. Um,
Mm.
that means no love for any of the first four LL Cool J albums, a couple albums by The Cult and Danzig. He's executive producer on the first two Public Enemy albums, which means including It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. There's also Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic by Red Hot Chili Peppers. Didn't get it for that. Didn't get it for the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers Greatest Hits album, which is in I'm sorry, 2/3 of every female at my university at any time that album was on there. And a Ball Breaker by ACDC, just in case you're wondering. Rubin's been producing since 1997, since that first award that includes Californication, he already did Red Hot Chili Peppers, System of a Down, Rage Against the Machine, 99 Problems by Jay-Z, just in case you were wondering, and Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh. So he's got one. How many Grammy wins does Rick Rubin have? Is the number I'm looking for. I'll talked a lot and I'll give you a hint. He was nominated just last year for Best Audiobook Narration and Storytelling for the Creative Act, A Way of Being, his 2023 New York Times bestseller, described by the author as, I set out to write a book about what to do to make a great work of art. Instead, it revealed itself to be a book on how to be, because he's very deep if you haven't seen his beard. So the question again, the number I'm looking for is how many Grammy wins does Rick Rubin have? Josh, you got a number for me?
Four.
Four?
Yeah,
Rashawn?
Len Dykstra, just for you.
Rashawn, you got a number for me?
I'm gonna go 2.
Two. All right. Price is Right rules, Kenny. So whether you get it right or wrong, you know if you're better or worse. Two and four
I'm
are the
going to say
numbers.
3.
You're gonna go three.
Yeah, go
So
three.
2, 4, and 3 are the numbers. The trivia answer will be in the description for this episode. You can hear more Terminal Podcast, sports, music, and other things. We're on a bunch of different platforms. But I'd like to thank all of our guests for stopping by and wish you all safe travels or wherever your highway takes you. Thank you for listening and good night.